Hey, cool snubs. How's it going?
Good.
Good. Um, do you remember I started a podcast?
hmm
I'm up to double digits on subscribers now.
Oh, what's that mean? 11?
15.
Whoa,
Not bad, huh?
not bad.
And I'm I'm committed to giving my viewers what they want.
Okay.
And what the people want is more cool snubs.
Oh, baloney.
You think I'm making that up?
Yeah.
I'm not. You're a big deal in my circle. I hope you know that.
All right.
How many Instagram followers you got nowadays?
I have no idea.
Yeah, it's hard to keep track when you have that many, huh?
I think I've got about a hundredth of the followers that I have of flower pictures.
Uh, nice. Okay, I got some stuff to talk to you about.
Okay.
You remember my friend and old roommate Jeremy?
hmm
He likes to tell people that I'm the most emotionally and mentally stable person he knows. And maybe it's true, maybe it's not. Maybe I'm just not good at showing my emotions. But I've thought about it, and I thought if it is true that I'm emotionally and mentally stable, I think the credit goes to my parents for the
Well,
way.
when I was in college, I had a roommate that said to me, "You're so emotionally healthy, you don't even know you're sick."
So was she saying that you were sick?
I guess she was mostly saying that I was emotionally healthy.
Or was she saying something was wrong with you and you didn't know it?
I didn't ask her the interpretation. I took it as a compliment.
Yeah, that reminds me. Once a girl said to me, she said, you have some very interesting personality quirks." I'm like, "Oh, really? Like what?" She said, "You're so down to earth." And I took that as a compliment, and then later I realized I don't think she meant it as a compliment.
Well, did she mean that you were from South Provo?
Yeah, I think so. Um, so anyway, I've thought about it, and I don't remember seeing either of my parents stressed out. Um, Neither of my parents ever were involved in like drama that I witnessed. And no matter what happened, like things are going to be okay. Life is good. Everything's fine. So I think that kind of transferred to me. Um, so I was thinking about it, and I thought that I think that my parents cared about what is very most important, and outside of that, they didn't care about anything at all.
That does sound healthy.
So, um, for example, like, um, you never had junk food in your house. Why is that?
Um, well, early on, the dentist told Bernie that sugar cereal was very, very detrimental to your teeth. So he only bought Chex and Cheerios mostly, didn't he?
Yeah, and Wheaties.
Oh yeah. Uh, we both were raised conservative and both raised to believe in good health, and uh, just seemed like the best thing to do is to have healthy food. Now, some people would say that you I can't remember, was you told me or Kathy told me that by the time you came along and I stopped cooking, why the things that you and Kathy helped yourself to were corn checks, nachos, bread and peanut butter and jam, uh, mac and cheese,
And there's one
and
more.
there's one more. What was it?
Ramen noodles.
Oh yeah. Now, to some people, several of those are junk food.
Yeah, I guess. Yeah, we learned to take care of ourselves early on. Not that you
Yeah,
never had food for us. You just let us, if we didn't like what you had, you let us make our own.
yeah,
But yeah, cereal 3 days, 3 meals a day,
yeah.
not bad. I remember when I went to the Crandall's house when I was a kid, and they opened up their pantry, which I didn't even know what a pantry was, and I saw a bag of Doritos, and my mind was blown because I was used to corn tortilla chips in a 3 foot tall bag with
Hmm.
no flavor at all. And I saw
Hmm.
this, just the packaging alone blew my mind with how like beautiful the packaging was on the Doritos.
Did they share them with you?
Yeah, I couldn't believe how good it tasted.
Do you eat Doritos now?
Mm, not a lot sometimes.
Hmm.
Um, Also, we never drank soda. Why didn't you drink? Why didn't you buy soda? Because it wasn't healthy, or because it was expensive?
It wasn't healthy. I thought it was really, really bad for your health.
Um, so yeah, thinking about it, like sometimes I think we felt a little deprived or made jokes about being deprived, but now that I'm grown up, I feel pretty grateful we didn't have a bunch of junk food, and I don't have the habits of needing treats all the time.
Yeah.
Um, do you know what fajitas are?
Hmm. Uh, uh, some kind of Mexican food, right?
Yeah. So this goes along with you cared about what's most important and no care about anything else. when, so I grew up, I thought Wendy's was a fancy restaurant. And then when I got into high school, I realized it was like fast food. And it still felt like super like sophisticated. But my bar was like, I'd only been to McDonald's, and that's when we like read our book every day of the month, and our school gave us a free hamburger thing. So like Taco Bell was like way out of my league. Wendy's was way out of my league. And then the day after I graduated high school, I went with the Curl twins and their parents. They took us up to the state championship high school soccer game. We just lost the semifinals, which I'm sure you don't know because you never went to my soccer games.
Right.
And so I went with the Curl twins and their parents, and they took us to eat on the way up. And we had fajitas, and I had no idea what was happening. They had to show me how to how to get my burrito skin out of the little thing. that was keeping it warm and put the meat and the onions and the stuff on it and wrap it up. It was the best burrito I ever had. What
Mm.
did you always say to me about my soccer games?
I love you, but I hate soccer, so I'm not coming to your game.
So amidst all that, I always felt loved and accepted because I guess, like, I think if I could have chose, I would have had my parents come watch, but you didn't, and it was okay, and life moved on. You didn't watch me play church basketball, though.
I did, right?
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. And Bernie was very, very diligent at watching that, right?
Yeah, he always came to our basketball games. Um, Another thing, you didn't make a big fuss out of our birthdays. I had one birthday party in second grade, and I don't know if it would have been up to me to initiate having birthday parties, but I never had any other ones. And I remember
Hmm.
eventually you got tired of frosting, putting frosting on cakes, and then eventually you got tired of putting birthday candles on cakes. So it was just a cake with no frosting and no candles. And then eventually you got to the point where once you had enough grandkids, we just have one birthday party a month for whoever had a birthday party. We eat cake and ice cream and sing to 8 people at once.
Hmm. Is that really true?
Yeah, but I think it made me realize that everything's fine and moves on in life, even if you don't have
Hmm.
everything as special as you want. Like some people's families are worried about keeping up with the Joneses, and I felt like our family didn't know who the Joneses were, never heard of them, and didn't really care.
Oh dear.
So let me ask you a little bit about your parenting style.
Okay.
You're pretty lenient with your kids, right?
Well, if they already behave, I am. I'm I'm way aggressive if they're disobedient or wrong.
Okay. Um, I feel like in little things though, like once you told me that if your kid isn't doing something that's immoral, illegal, or dangerous, let them do what they want.
Uh-huh. Do you want me to tell you more about that?
Mm-hmm.
Okay. Hold on just 1 minute. Um, when we lived in Idaho, uh, must have been was probably the first time. It was probably just before you were born. I read a book, and it was an excellent book. It's called Intimacy: The Essence of Male and Female, and I thought the author was very correct and right on. And she said most adults spend their adult life trying to overcome the intrusion put on them by their parents. And she said, don't ever make parenting be about, well, my kid has to do this so that I look like a good mother. Um, from the time a child is an infant, he or she displays his preferences. If you intrude on a child, why they're able to communicate to you that it's an intrusion, and she said don't do that. And she said children should be allowed to do what they want so that they're not intruded upon, but of course it's the parents' responsibility because children don't have the life experience and the ability to make all the correct decisions. So unless it's immoral, illegal, or too dangerous, let them do what they want. But if those other factors are involved, then you have to make the decision. And I thought that that was really good. And I tried to live by that. Now, prior to that, my friend Lorianne said, do not force your children to all fit the same mold. Value their uniqueness. And I thought that was really good too. Now, my children, I believe, for the most part, had good hearts, wanted to do what was right, made good decisions. I didn't have criminal kids, they weren't shoplifting and vandalizing and stuff. So I was able to pretty much let them do what they want.
So that all comes back down to Mohawks.
Ha! What's that got to do with anything?
You didn't freak out about your kids having weird hairstyles.
Well, I always loved Mohawks. When Doug and Jim and Roy and Clint were kids, I gave them Mohawks every chance I got.
And so did you with your posterity. That's probably your biggest intrusion.
You loved it. I never intruded on you with a Mohawk.
I remember going to high school with a Mohawk, and one of my teachers was like, "Oh my gosh, what does your mother think?" I'm like, "My mom's the one that gave it to me."
Well, that's why you're so emotionally healthy.
Why didn't you ever ground your kids?
That was a bigger punishment for me than the kid because then I had to police it. And my kids didn't need it much, did they?
I don't know.
Well, if I told you to do something, you were obedient.
Probably.
Yeah,
We didn't want you to get out your horsewhip.
yeah.
Tell me why you taught your kids how to sign your name so they could sign their parents' signature for themselves.
Did I do that?
Yeah, you don't remember that?
Vaguely. Well, Tim, that is a sign of me feeling you were trustworthy.
It was like a coming of age. Once you got to junior high, Cool Snubs would sit you down and you would teach us your signature and say, "This is how I sign my name. And if you ever need to sign my name, you can, but don't ever do it if you know that I wouldn't sign it." And I was in 7th grade and I felt so cool and so empowered. And I'd love to go brag to my friends that I signed my mom's name and my mom let me sign. One time I was
Well,
bragging to my friend. We were in Spanish class and we had to have a parent's signature that we studied our flashcards. And I signed it for you. And I left my desk and went over to my friend's desk and I was showing him. I'm like, "Look, I signed this. I signed my mom's name." And my friend had this kind of weird look on his face. And I turned and looked, and the teacher was standing right there. And the teacher never said anything to me. Otherwise, I would
Yeah.
have told him that my mom told me I could.
Mm.
But I felt cool that you trusted me, so I didn't want to betray your trust. So I felt like it made it. I had even
Yeah.
more motivation to do what's right.
Yeah.
Um, and then in high school, I thought my mom is so laid back. She's so cool. She lets me sign her name. I'm gonna test this a little bit more. So one day I said to you, "Mom, can I skip school tomorrow?" And you said yes. I'm like, what? You're like, yeah, sure. I'm like, really? You're like, yeah. I'm like, so I can write a note and sign it to excuse myself? And you said no. I'm like, what? And you said, I'm not going to excuse you, but if you don't want to go, you don't have to go. You just deal with the consequences and you'll get truancies and extra homework. I'm like, oh. So I went to school.
Uh, see, aren't you glad you were such an obedient boy?
I guess because I know that Willis sometimes signed your name for things that you would not have signed it for.
I believe it.
He got himself out of class a lot.
I believe it.
um, okay, so I got something else to tell you.
Okay.
I give you credit for me being emotionally and mentally stable. About 2 years ago, I was hanging out with some people, and there was a girl, and she was complaining about all these guys she knows that have toxic masculinity, and she was kind of explaining it, and I'd never heard the term before, and she's talking about how they feel like they have this, they always have to be tough and macho and can't show emotion. And at first I felt a little defensive, and then later I kind of thought about it, and I'm like, yeah, I guess I probably have some of that. I probably have some toxic masculinity, and I think I got it all from my mom.
How does that add up?
So, because I feel like I'm like when I was little, I didn't have a bed till I was 12, and I would just sleep on the floor, sleep on the couch. I remember once I cut my finger, and I went and showed you, and you're like, "Oh, well, you can be like your older brother Justin, just suck on it." I'm like, "Oh, okay." So then every time I got cut, I just suck on it and keep playing. We'd go to Seven Peaks with our friends, and we go play like tag in the lazy river, and they all had goggles, and I didn't, so I just have to like open my eyes underwater and let the chlorine burn my eyes. And I just learned to be tough. So even now, like I go on hikes, and people are like, "Do you need any water?" I'm like, "Heck no, I don't need any water." Or I go on a road trip. Should we go buy snacks? No, we don't need any snacks. Let's just drive. Let's watch a movie. Should we make some popcorn? Should we get some snacks? No, we don't need any snacks. Let's just watch a movie. So I developed my toughness from you. Or like
Mm.
driving in a car. Tim, put your seatbelt on. I don't need my seatbelt on. So I'm always trying to be like cool snubs. Do you wear a seatbelt?
Usually not.
Why not?
I was not raised wearing one. We didn't have seat belts, back when I was driving, and I didn't get in the habit. And I'm just not in the habit. Not I'm just too lazy to, I guess. Sometimes I wear them. It's inconvenient for me to reach around and get it and clamp it, and the strap comes right here. So I rationalize it, saying if I got in an accident, the seatbelt would cut my head off. I'm more healthy, more apt to be survive the accident if I don't have my seatbelt on. I don't know if that's true or not, but that's my rationalization.
Yeah. So anyway, I feel like it makes me feel tough and macho to be as least high maintenance as possible.
Mm.
I can eat stuff off the ground like you. I'm not scared of germs. I don't need to wash my hands after I go somewhere. I'm not going to get sick. I don't need no water. I can eat the last piece, the heel of a bread, and I don't care. I can eat the crust. The food's burnt. I don't care. I'll just eat it because that's what Cool Snubs taught me to do.
I love it, Tim. Sounds like your values are just right.
Yeah, it's called toxic masculinity. And I've also realized that because most things I don't think is that big of a deal, I'm incapable to show empathy to others.
Did you get that from me?
I don't know. I doubt it. You're really you're tough as nails and gritty, and you have thick skin. You don't get offended, but you're really soft-hearted to other people. So I think you probably show empathy well.
Mm, I
But I
hope
don't.
so.
Yeah, you have a tender heart. I've seen you cry over things about other people, but you don't cry for yourself because you're an old sheep farmer. Um, yeah, I used to drink out of the gutter too. Do you know that?
Oh, did I teach you that?
I don't know.
I don't think so.
One of my favorite things. Oh, I have a couple questions. Is it true that driving to from Provo to Lava, Hot Springs, Idaho, at one point you took a nap and let one of your kids take the steering wheel while you were sitting in the driver's seat? Really?
Hmm.
Who was it?
Um,
It was Sean, right?
uh-huh. Yeah. And then and I think it was the Lincoln. And then after we moved to Louisville Highway, I had a ring route that went up to Jackson Hole and Driggs and around there. I used to take Joseph with me before he was uh, legal to drive, and I'd sleep and let him at the. So I'd be sitting in the driver's seat, and he'd be next to me, and I'd go to sleep, and he'd use the wheel, and away we'd go.
That is so nuts. Did you ever did you ever have kids ride in the bed of a truck from Utah to Idaho?
Hmm.
Like with no camper shell, just in the back of a truck?
Well, when Ken and Colleen had their wedding reception, Bernie was in Canada with the car, and his pickup truck was at home. And around the edge of the pickup bed, there are holes that you can put stakes in.
Mhm.
So I pounded stakes down in there, and then I uh, wrapped them with chicken wire. And then I put my kids in there to ride to Idaho. So they loved it, and so did I. So I was in the front of the pickup just all by myself, and Lisa and Willis and Justin and Ed Young were in the back of the pickup in this chicken wire cage. So I believed that they were safe, and it was so fun for them. And it was one of the best trips I ever had. And Bernie got home from Canada and took it apart, and he said, "My kids don't have to ride like cattle."
One of my favorite experiences of my life is driving to Nauvoo and back in the back of a stock trailer.
Oh, wasn't that awesome?
Hmm.
That was so awesome.
And part of the time we had a horse with us.
Mhm. Yep.
Um, okay, I have something else to blame you for.
Okay.
I've been accused more than once by people, mostly females, that I have no sense of fashion. And I want to blame you for that.
Boy, I'll accept that one.
Do you want to know why?
Well,
Because
uh,
the only times I've ever dressed fashionable, I got ridiculed by my own mother.
such as a skinny suit.
Yeah.
Yeah, I think they're ridiculous.
I showed up to some family function, some church thing in my suit. Tim, is that a skinny suit? I guess so. Why are you wearing that? Well, because that's how the tailor made it. Well, did he make it for you when you were 12? And then I asked all your grandkids, and they all thought it looked like a normal suit. Remember my manure britches?
Hmm.
That was the other time when I dressed something that was trendy. With the faded jeans, and I walk in the house. Why are you wearing manure britches? Why do you call them that? Because it looks like you've been rolling around the manure in your britches.
Yeah, green manure color. Uh, when that fashion started, I was working at Foothill Treatment Center, and there was a one of the clients that came in a pair of manure breeches, and one of the other staff who was like me and were they were not up on the new style. She offered to take them and wash them for the guy to get the manure out.
You want to know the ironic thing about you and not caring about fashion?
Uh-huh.
You are so hip and hipster right now with your fashion.
I am not.
Yeah, you are. Guess what the latest trend is?
What?
Plaid shirts and Doc Marten boots. What are you showing? I didn't.
Well, that's just lucky.
I couldn't see them. By the way, you missed. Oh yeah, there they are. The yellow thread and everything. Nice. So you're hipster fashion, even though you don't do it on purpose.
Well, I just lucked out, huh?
Yeah, I guess if you wear something for 30 years, eventually it'll be in style.
I guess so. Lucky me.
Um, tell me what self-actualization means to you.
Uh, you have a concept of yourself, of your own self identity, that you feel comfortable with who you are and what decisions you make for yourself, and you don't have to be covered with guilt by somebody else thinking you should be this or that or different. So you're emotionally healthy enough to feel good about yourself.
Feel good in your own skin.
Mm-hmm.
You don't care about what others think.
Pretty much.
That's kind of how you are with your fashion, huh?
Mm-hmm.
You want me to tell you about the time when I learned that my mother was truly self-actualized?
Mm-hmm.
The day you came home and told us that you wanted spinning rims.
And I bought them and put them on the car. And then Joseph had the car, and somebody was asking him about them, and he said, "My mother bought these and installed them herself."
Well, I don't know if you remember me trying to talk you out of it.
No, I don't remember.
You're like, I see these new spinning rims and they're so cute and I want some. I'm like, oh my gosh. Oh, cool. So me and Jess are like, no, you do not want spinning rims.
Well, then
Why not?
why?
Well, you're like, why not? I'm like, those are for people that drive Escalades. Those are for, like some rapper in California that has his car all pimped out. You have to be a pimp. And you're like, what's that mean? So we try to explain that. And then you're like, well, I don't care. I like him. I'm going to get him anyway. And I'm like, all right, well, I don't think you should. But if you do, I heard they're pretty cheap at Walmart. And
Well,
so the day you showed up with them, even though I had told you not to and begged you not to over and over, as soon as you showed up, I said, give me the car keys. I got to borrow your car. So I called my buddies, Brian Esplin and Levi Jackson. They're living in Liberty Square Apartments, and I called them and I'm like, hey, I'm coming to pick you up. Go outside. They're like, no, just come knock on the door. I'm like, no, go outside. You have to be outside. So they went outside and I pulled up and slammed on the brakes. And one of the rims was spinning, the other one didn't work. And they got in and we cruised around listening to Johnny Cash, which you had in the tape deck. Probably the only car with spinning rims that had Johnny Cash playing.
So is that evidence that I had self-actualization?
Yeah, don't you think?
I think so.
Okay, I want to play a game with you now. It's a guessing game. You have to guess. All right.
Okay. Okay.
So this is, I'm going to describe something, and you say what this is to you and to our family.
Okay.
And then I'll tell you, once I've lived more life, what I've found out that most other people do for the same situation.
Okay.
That makes sense?
Uh-huh.
I'll start out with an easy one. What do you use for a kid when they've cut themselves and they need the wound patched?
Well, if it's a fairly minor cut, now in the old days and originally I would have put a band-aid on, but my kids would get the band-aids and use them all up for nothing. So I thought, well, they think that band-aids are just toys and use them all up for nothing. So I would take a piece of toilet paper and fold it up and tape it on with Scotch tape.
Okay, so scotch tape and toilet paper is the answer I was looking for. Yes, and the other people use band-aids.
Right.
Okay. When you go on a trip with your family, what food do you have in the car?
I used to make sandwiches.
What
I
kind?
Oh, bread and peanut butter, I guess.
And
Maybe
bologna.
tuna, maybe tuna fish. Well, we went on a trip to Yellowstone and Bernie bought bread and bologna. I didn't. I don't like bologna, but he bought a lot, and we did make a lot of bologna sandwiches.
Okay, other people, they stop at restaurants and they eat food.
And I know they do, Tim. Back when we did what you're just describing, I don't think that the I don't think it was as big a trend then as it is now.
Yeah, that's
Um,
very true.
the fast foods weren't as available and weren't as, people hadn't gotten into the trend of it then as like they do now.
Okay, what would you do if your kids were thirsty?
Um, before I answer that one, let me tell you an experience I had.
Okay.
I was coming from Lava Hot Springs, Idaho to Provo, and I was hungry. And I stopped at Flying J and got a hot dog. So I got it out of the machine, and I put it on a napkin and was trying to figure out how to do ketchup and mustard and stuff. And one of the workers came along and opened a cupboard door and got a little paper boat. And that's how you're supposed to put the hot dog in the paper boat, and so that you had something to catch the leaks and stuff. so so I had the bun and the hot dog and putting the ketchup, mustard, and stuff on it when she showed me this boat, and I said, "Oh, thank you. I don't eat out much." And she laughed and laughed. Okay, so what do we drink? Well, we take a milk jug full of water on the trip.
Yep, and it'd get warm pretty quick. We'd pass it around and all terrified that we'd accidentally backwash and put floaties in there and get ridiculed by the rest of our siblings. A big gallon jug of warm water. Okay, what do you use when you go on a trip to put all your clothes? Or like
But
your kids, like we're going on a trip, what do we all use to put our clothes in?
okay, so here's the instruction. We're going on a trip. Take the clothes on your back, one outfit to change into. If we'll be gone on Sunday, get your church clothes and put them in a plastic bag, and away we go.
It doesn't matter how long the trip is.
Right.
You're a minimalist.
Well, when Lisa was born, she was new, and we went to Lava. I took half the house with us. Well, I might need this. I might need that. I might need this. I might need that. I didn't need it. I was just put to load up all that stuff and haul it up and back. So
You remember we went to Montana to see Joseph a year ago or whenever, and Willis said, I've spent thousands of dollars on gear for my kids, and they're still snubbing it around with a plastic sack.
hmm.
Okay. One of my things you already touched on, but it was cereal. It tastes really good. So in our family, every once in a while, we'd go open up the sugar container and sprinkle some sugar on our corn checks or our Wheaties. And that was our sugar cereal. But we had to be careful that we didn't get caught. So every once in a while we got sugar cereal by putting sugar on our cereal. um, what did you do if I poured myself too much cereal and didn't eat it all?
I saved it and made you eat it before you could have anything else to eat. Because I said, you can have as much or as little as you want, but you can't pour too much and waste it. So learn to stop when you've dished up all that you can eat and no more.
Or learn to overeat.
Your eyes are bigger than your stomach, so learn different.
So that 2 times I remember. Once I didn't finish my corn checks, so it went in the fridge, turned to mush. The next time I was hungry, I had to eat it, and you let me add some new fresh ones to add some crunch to it. One time I did it with my Wheaties, and I learned my lesson. I never poured too much again after that.
Fast learner.
But you wouldn't force your kids to eat the leftovers if you poured it for them.
That's right.
Themselves too much, right?
That's right.
So you didn't punish them for not eating all their food if you're the one that gave them too much.
That's right.
Okay. What do you use when you have leftover food and you need to put it in the fridge? How do you contain the,
What storage containers?
yeah.
Well, I have the little Tupperware things now. I used to probably just put it in a bowl with a plastic bag over it. I'm not sure.
Yeah. I never heard of Tupperware until I was out of our house. Or saran wrap.
Oh,
Is either you put it in a bowl and put a plate on top, or you wrap it in a bread sack or something.
mm-hmm.
So later I learned about Tupperware and saran wrap.
Mm.
So that's another example of the making do with what you got. Okay,
Mm-hmm.
next one. What do you use if you need to wipe down, like clean a stain off of the wall or something?
A cleaning rag, which is probably cut up from an old t-shirt or something.
There are always socks.
Oh yeah, yeah, that's right.
Socks, and
Yeah,
every once in a while, some old cut up underwear were our rags. Okay, what do you use if you have to tie some stuff down, like tie some stuff in the back of a truck or something?
baling twine.
Nice. And other people use ratchet straps. Okay, what do you use if you're using your rag, which is an old sock with holes in it, and you got water and you're trying to get a stain off and it's not coming off easy? What do you use?
Dish soap or cleanser.
Dang it.
What do you think I use?
Elbow grease.
Oh,
You just push harder.
okay.
Later, I found out people use cleaning chemicals.
Tim, the longer we go, the better I like myself.
Okay. How about your kids are in school? What do they use to transport their books and their homework to and from school?
Um, well, I don't know. Backpacks weren't popular back then, were they?
Well,
I don't really know the answer to that.
when I was in high school, everyone had backpacks except me and Kathy.
And you didn't have one because your mother was clueless?
I don't know why. I just carried my stuff in my arms and put them in the locker.
Mm. Yeah, I don't know about that.
Um,
We could have afforded backpacks for you then. I don't know why you didn't have one.
hmm, Probably because it wasn't essential. Okay, next one. Where's name a place where you go to buy clothes at a discount?
My very favorite store is Deseret Industries.
Have you ever heard of Nordstrom Rack?
Mm, I'm not sure. I've heard of Nordstrom.
So Nordstrom has a discount store called Nordstrom Rack.
No, I'm not familiar with it.
That's because it's still 5 times more expensive than anything you find at DI.
Mm.
Okay, here's a good one. When you have a son or a daughter playing some kind of sport where they need to wear cleats made out of leather, what do you use to keep the leather nice?
Mutton tallow.
What's that?
When a sheep is butchered, the fat that comes out of the stomach area, it's a big yellow glob of fat, and if you put it on the stove at a low heat, it's called render, and the fat changes and the it becomes liquid. It comes out of the glob, and it's very waterproof. To put mutton tallow on leather shoes is a good waterproofing, and it's somewhat like mink oil and so on, but it's a lot better because it's heavier.
So when I was playing soccer in high school, my friends would go, their parents would buy them these little containers of mink oil, and they'd open it up and spread it on their cleats, and their cleats would be all nice and waterproofed. And then I'd go home and get the Campbell's tomato soup can with this grease in it and put it on the stove and slowly warm it up and dip an old holy sock in there and smear it on my cleats. So this one time, I didn't have time to warm it up or something like that. I think I had to go somewhere. I can't remember, but somehow I asked you what to do, and you said, "Well, just smear it on now while it's still in its solid, greasy form." And then you said, "Just put it in the oven, and it'll seep in. Like, turn the oven on low." So I did that, and I left, and I was gone, and I came back, and you reported to me the incident that had happened, that you preheated the oven to bake the potatoes, and you opened up the oven, and there were my cleats withered and dried up.
Shriveled, shriveled.
And I had to leave the next day to go play in a soccer tournament in St. George, and my cleats were 2 sizes smaller, and I had to shove my foot in there, and I tried to tie my shoelaces, and the shoelaces were brittle and they broke.
If you didn't go to the next day, we should have bought you some new cleats.
Yeah, I guess in my mind I just thought we were too poor to afford them, so I just went. Or maybe we didn't have time, I don't know. But I remember thinking, because those were the most expensive shoes I ever had, and I didn't think that I could ask my parents to buy me more.
Yeah, that was too bad.
Anyway, I still played in them.
I'm amazed you were able to stretch them big enough to put them on your feet.
My toes were scrunched.
I bet.
Okay, what do you do in the wintertime when your legs are cold? What do you put on your legs?
Well, I've tried different things. The most recent is I bought some men's soccer socks to try and cover my legs and keep them warm.
Worked pretty good.
Oh, it helped.
I love that you wear men's soccer socks. You're so practical. Okay, speaking of practical, what do you use to wrap presents in?
Sometimes Christmas paper, but sometimes newspaper.
Newspaper and cereal boxes.
Hmm.
What, how do you, okay, here's a good one. Let's say you're going to Arizona and you're flying on Allegiant and you don't want to pay the $15 fee to pack a bag. How do you get your pajamas down there?
Uh, I wear multiple layer of clothes and just wear them.
That's one of my favorite stories about you.
But
Was it?
but Tim, I'm always cold on the airplane. I'm always cold. Tommy finally gave me a blanket that I put over me as a poncho. So it's comfortable to wear multiple layers too.
And it saves money at the same time.
Hmm.
Okay, almost done. What do you do where do you get water when you're thirsty?
Out of the tap,
And what do other people do?
buy it at the grocery store.
Does that seem ridiculous to you?
Hmm.
Tell me the story of buying water for Sage and her friends.
We were coming home from Lava Hot Springs and stopped at Antelope Island. And there was a visitor center that had fountains, drinking fountains. They wanted me to buy them bottled water. And so, so that was, I don't remember how many kids, but I added it up and it sounded like it was going to cost $7. I said, absolutely not. That is ridiculous. If you're thirsty, go get a drink. I'm not going to buy you bottled water. Good gosh, that is so dumb. And I'll tell you another story. I was at Timpview with Lisa and her kids. I'm guessing that we were there to pick up John David from Ballroom Dance. I don't remember that for sure. So one of the kids wanted, I don't know, chips or something from the vending machine. And they started to coax for it. And I gave in and gave them $1. And then pretty soon they wanted this and that and the other. And I said, no, no, I'm not going to stand here and put $20 in that cockeyed machine. I don't even believe in vending machines. Sometime later, one of them said to Lisa, how come grandma doesn't believe in vending machines? They thought it was like grandma didn't believe in Santa Claus.
I guess you don't believe in the tooth fairy either, do you?
Yeah, I believe in the tooth fairy.
That's awesome. Okay, I have two stories to ask you about. I want you to tell me the story of you exercising in the pool with the scuba divers.
Oh gosh, I was I was in the Provo swimming pool when it was at Provo High, and I was going along, and this big black monster came swimming along by my feet, and it was scuba diver. I didn't know they had scuba diver lessons in there. That was so shocking to me. I felt like some whale was in there with me.
Weren't isn't there some story? Weren't they like really old or something?
Oh, oh, oh. Um,
Is that a different story?
that was a yeah, it's a different story. Yeah. So there was this little old lady, and she was uh, she was just a tiny little old lady, and she and her husband were trying to figure out snorkeling because they were going to go to the Galapagos Islands. So they were at the Provo pool trying to figure out how to put their snorkels on. And oh, it was so comical. And I was a little old lady by then too. I wasn't quite as old as them, but they'd fiddle and fuddle and adjust it and put their heads under the water. And oh, I just had to smile at the struggle they had.
Were they trying to put fins on too?
No, I don't think so. They're just trying to figure out their snorkels.
Have you ever been snorkeling?
No,
Do you want to?
no. I don't I don't like to get my ears wet. I've had so much earache in my life that I try to avoid.
Mm.
I don't when I go to the swimming pool, I don't get my ears wet if at all possible.
You love working out though, huh?
Oh, I don't know if you'd really call it working out. I do go to the pool and exercise in the water, and yeah, I do like that.
You like getting swole. I think that's another reason why I've always felt try to be so macho because I always try to be tough like my mom because you used to flex with guns. When I was little, you'd flex for me.
Oh,
You'd always tell me tales of being athletic and being the best wrestler in your class, and you taught me how to do a
hmm.
left-handed layup. I was always trying to live up to my hardcore mother.
Oh,
Okay, last story. Let's talk about Steve Young's pants.
okay.
You go first.
uh, well, I don't remember much about it except that you told me Steve Young showed up and had the pants and asked if your mother could reweave them, and you said yes. So I did. You tell your side.
So my cousin BT was over, and we were getting ready to go play basketball, and we opened the door, and Steve Young was standing there. He's just getting ready to knock, but right before he knocked, I opened the door. And this time he just won most valuable player of the NFL, so it was the peak of his career. And so I was obviously a little surprised. I'm like,
Yeah,
oh,
I
hey.
bet.
He's like, is your mom here? I'm like, no. He's like, can she fix these for me? And I'm like, yeah, if you want her to. He's like, okay, so what do I do? Just leave my name and phone number? I'm like, yeah, but I think I already know your name. So I went and got a piece of paper and a pen, and he signed his name and put his phone number. And then he left and he got in the car. There was some girl. This is before he was married. So there's a girl with him, and it looked like she was kind of laughing at me and BT because we're these little like 14-year-olds that were looking starstruck and kind of surprised. And then he drove away. And but the funny thing to me is once I told you took his pants to all the neighbors and showed them all.
Oh, I did not.
Yes, you did. You're like, first of all, you're like, you should wear them, put them on. I'm like, no. You're like, you could say you wore Steve Young's pants. I'm like, I'm not gonna wear his pants. That's weird. And then you took them out and you're like showing rasses and you're like out in the street, like showing people, look, these are Steve Young's pants. And I'm like, all
Are
right.
you sure? Are you sure?
Yes, I'm sure. I couldn't believe how you seemed more starstruck than I did. You didn't even care about football. You don't believe it?
Oh, I guess it doesn't sound like me.
You were showing Rasses and Deloy and everyone Steve Young's pants.
Hmm.
But then he came back and visited with you about you used to live where he lived, right?
Uh-huh.
Back in the glory days when you lived in North Provo.
Provo River Bottoms in Edgemont.
And then he signed a football for us.
Mm-hmm.
So Jess and I had it up in the cupboard, and after a few weeks, we're like, "This is stupid. We're the only guys in the neighborhood that have the football when we go play football at the neighborhood park with all of our buddies. We play with our football, and now we can't play anymore. So what's the point of having a football if you can't play with it?" So we went and played with it, and his autograph wore off over time. And one day you had one of my brothers retrace it. So I came home and the autograph was brand new and fresh. Because you had Justin trace it with a marker. I don't know if that's cheating or not. All right. Well, thank you for the stories.
Okay, after you stop the recording, stay on a minute with me.
Okay.